I mean, specific regulations, I think, are a little ways off. I mean, certainly not until we have the new Democratic Congress in. And then remember, the Senate, the Republicans still control the Senate. But what people are really starting to look at is the amount of sort of information that these companies have and how much they're able to control and to track. And it's very much a learning process for members of Congress. You remember sort of when Facebook and other tech executives come to the Hill, it's very much sort of like an Internet 101 for a lot of these members of Congress. They're just starting to realize how powerful these companies are, how much information they have, how much data they have on all of their users.
But does that suggest that whatever regulation comes actually is going to be behind the eight ball, if you will? I mean, behind the curve?
I mean, probably behind the curve, but I think what tech is trying to do is get ahead of that curve now. A lot of the executives, not just Tim Cook, are coming out and saying that not only do we expect regulation, we welcome regulation. The Facebook executives said that when they came to visit. Tim Cook now is saying that really, it's time for them to happen.
Are you seeing them trying to shape what that regulation looks like yet? I mean, I asked you earlier what the details are. Nobody seems to have any sense of what the details are. Are there companies behind the scenes with their lobbyists saying, look, this is actually how you do it?
Right. I think there is a lot of education that's still happening, but it is not clear at all what those exact regulations would look like, whether they would be around data portability, whether they'd be around about how much you have to disclose what you can share, whether these companies are allowed to sell it. I mean, all of this is very unknown, and I think that's what the companies are very concerned about. It's such an undiscovered country, unknown territory, that they're really trying to get ahead of it now. And so I expect, certainly when the committee chairmen change and there's more new members of the Senate and the House leads committees, there's going to be a lot of lobbyists from these companies in town trying to educate them and trying to sort of reach some kind of agreement on what those regulations should look like, because there is now bipartisan agreement on that. A poll we reported on HBO yesterday as well shows Democrats and Republicans are both in favor of regulation. In fact, a majority of Americans think it won't go far enough, and that is both Republicans and Democrats.
I want to turn our attention now to the situation in Saudi Arabia. The report from the CIA, what we may or may not hear from the White House later this week, specifically, I believe, tomorrow. The president has equivocated on this issue many a times. Did an interview yesterday with Fox News where he said, look, there's still an ally, an important ally. How do you think that that the president threads this needle?
The president doesn't want to talk about this. He tells aides inside he doesn't know why it's such a big deal. Khashoggi wasn't an American citizen. The murder happened outside the United States. He doesn't know why people are talking about it so much. The president also tells aides that there's a lot of countries who are friendly or unfriendly with the United States who do horrible things. Particularly, he singles out China for the millions of people they have in education camps. So the president very much doesn't like talking about this. You see how he spreads sort of the information, like how could you even really know? He talked about in the interview with Chris Wallace, like, oh, who can know what's true or what's not? I think what will likely happen is that this report may come out today or tomorrow. It's unclear if it will be released publicly, and this is something I think the president certainly would just sort of like to drift into the background.
By the way, how much do you think the motivation for the leaks that have come out about the CIA report are about putting the president in a corner on this?
I think there's certainly some people in the administration trying to do that. There was that senior U.S. official dealt with Saudi issues who resigned over that. This is a really big firestorm. I mean, remember, I get to the point, like, this is a Washington Post journalist who was murdered in the Saudi consulate, even though he wasn't a U.S. citizen, even though it was the United States. It's just something that's relatively unprecedented. There's a firestorm of politics around this, but Trump views it very differently. He has a very specific view of Saudi Arabia as an ally in the region, as an important trading partner, as an important military ally, and doesn't want to upset that.
The president said yesterday he has not listened to the tape, was offered the opportunity, but didn't.
Said he doesn't want to. Said it's gruesome, says it's terrible, says it's not something he wants to wade into. I think that speaks actually how he's trying to thread that needle.
And finally, bringing this all back to the world of business, do you think that business executives, there's going to actually be a shift on this? Obviously, we talked about in the last hour with the Colonel, a number of business executives didn't go to that conference, but are still doing business with the country.
I think they're definitely looking for the U.S. to lead the way. They'll do what the government does. We had an interview with Jamie Dimon out in California earlier this month and asked him that specific question. He said it's not J.P. Morgan's decision, it's the U.S. government's decision. So if the U.S. government doesn't follow through on stricter sanctions, if there isn't more of a statement from the president, I think business will go on as usual.